Hey, you. Welcome to another episode of Coffee with E. We had the pleasure of sitting down with Tiffiney Hall. She was just named 2025 Remarkable Women in Central PA area. She had the opportunity to sit down and have conversation with Jennifer Hudson. She was able to go to California and got the red carpet treatment. And she's able to share with us, sit down, first time after winning the award, to discuss how she got it, why she received it. You know what? Her story is not going to disappoint. She was able to turn her pain into purpose. Sit back, listen, and hopefully it'll be able to feed your soul. Welcome, Tiffiney.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to be having coffee with you.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. You're so welcome. So this is my first time actually meeting you in real life.
Yes.
So I see you on social media all the time. Yes. And I see that you're doing great work, and most recently known for being the Remarkable Woman of Central PA or Pennsylvania.
So what it is I was the 2025 Remarkable Women winner for this area.
Yes.
Yes. So for like ABC 27 News, so it is their broadcasting network. So there's like 125 nationwide. It's sponsored by Nexstar Media. Nexstar Media is the largest broadcasting network in the world or in the nation.
Yeah.
So ABC 27 is one of their networks. So in our viewing area, I was chosen as the 2025 Remarkable.
So how does it feel? What does this mean for you?
So
you already were remarkable, right?
Yeah, that's what ours.
You just got the official title.
Yeah, but when you go to Hollywood, right, when you go to Hollywood and they just like really focus on making sure that you're remarkable. So they sent 125 of us out to Hollywood for 2 days. And we didn't have to lift a finger. Like they planned everything. There was a remarkable man. Listen, it was purple. It was purple carpet.
It was purple,
but it was life changing, and just being able to see women from all walks of life who we've all been through something, and we've taken that pain and turned it into a purpose.
Wow.
And just coming to a point where it's like I wasn't the only one. Like that. But just to see that being celebrated on that level, because that's one of the things that we don't do as women. We don't celebrate the remarkableness in other women the way we should. So you got the local winner, you got $1,000. And then there was like regional winners. They got $5,000 each. And then there was an overall national winner, and they got $25,000.
Did we get 25,000?
No, we didn't. But I'm gonna tell you, the award ceremony again. It was just ironic because you didn't feel like you lost.
Of course not.
Deborah,
you didn't lose.
Yeah. Like you didn't feel there was this whole award ceremony. It was on ABC. It's aired a couple times now. But you were in that room, and the energy in that room. Deborah Cox performed.
Oh,
so yeah,
that's nice.
Yeah, so you didn't feel like you lost anything. You felt like we all won.
You were being celebrated for the remarkable woman that you already knew you were.
Yes, yeah. So, and again, we don't do that like we should.
No, we don't. We don't. So then, in order to be a remarkable woman, did you have to overcome something?
Yes. So, and my daughter nominated me for this in particular.
Oh, wow. I thought it was so great.
My daughter is 24. So she nominated me for this last year.
Okay.
So I've known since January, but we had to keep it a secret.
What?
We had to keep it a secret. And it's funny because this is the first interview that I've done, like revealing this process.
Yes.
My husband,
he's doing coffee with it.
My husband is a basketball coach, high school basketball coach. He's an assistant basketball coach.
Okay.
And they had a game up in State College. And he got sick up in State College.
Ooh.
So he went to the ER. I didn't go to the game. So my daughter calls. He took an ambulance to the hospital. And my daughter calls and she's like, he's going to the hospital. I was like, what? So 10:30 at night, I'm driving up to State College. Me and my daughter had lunch plans the next day.
Yeah.
And we had started this thing like late last year. We would pick a day we would go to lunch. And we hadn't done it yet, in 2025. So I was like, okay, maybe she just wants to be with mom because mom's cool. Yeah. She's like, we're going to lunch tomorrow, 12 o'clock. I was like, cool. But then with that, we got home 3:30 in the morning. I made him a doctor's appointment at like 12:15.
Right.
So my daughter's like, we can't go to lunch now. I was like, oh, you want to go to lunch with me that bad? We'll go afterwards.
Wait, not how's dad?
No. We're not worried about him. Yeah, we're not worried about him. But, I was like, well, we can go after his doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
And she was like, never mind. I was like, oh, excuse me. We are at the doctor's, Erica. My daughter calls. And she's like, I have to tell you something. And she was like, remember that Remarkable Women nomination? She said you won and they were going to surprise you. Well, thank God they didn't, because I didn't look like this. I sounded
Right. That is essentially what a surprise is.
Oh my God.
Promise you
won. It was a mess.
Yeah.
Y'all would have been like, she's remarkable. Who? Like, it was,
That's
yeah. So it kind of worked out. But she ended up having to tell me because they needed the content by April 1st.
Okay.
So they needed all the announcements, all of, everybody notified so that they could do this big reveal April 1st.
Okay.
So I had to go up to the studio. So I walked into ABC studio and they're like, do you know why you're here? And I'm like, sort of, kind of, because I hadn't processed it all.
Sure.
I hadn't processed it out.
So was this your largest, I guess, win that you've had this day, or recognition, I should say? Because it's, you know what I mean? They're just recognizing you for the work you've already been doing.
So but some of the things that have led up to that. So last year I spoke at the Washington Mall. So how I ended up here. Because you're like, how do you end up in all these spaces?
Right.
In June of 2005, I was a victim of intimate partner domestic violence, and I was stabbed 7 times by the person I was in a relationship with. So at that time, I stepped out, I started speaking, and I wasn't speaking from a healed space. There was a point where, for people who know about domestic violence, even after the incident happened, we reconciled.
Right.
And I would tell people I wasn't crazy. Like, he did go to jail. Like, I wasn't where, oh my God, I love him. He can't go to jail. I was like, no, you tried to kill me.
Right.
You gotta go to jail, whatever, the worldly law said.
Yeah.
But then there was a spiritual piece of me. We had this relationship. We were, growing this family. So those emotions were there, that love was there. And that's something that can't be explained.
Hey, I'm hoping you're enjoying this episode of Coffee with E. I had to take 30 seconds to share with you one of our sponsors for this episode, Top Construction. They are a premier construction company located in Central PA. So if you live in Dauphin, Cumberland, Lancaster, and Lebanon counties, you want to check them out. Not only are they reliable, they are reasonable, and they get the job done. Now, let's go back to the episode.
I stepped out, I started speaking, and then I came to a point where I realized I wasn't necessarily speaking from a healed space. So there could have been.
Realize that? Like, what about that?
I think I wasn't in tune with what was going on with me. Like, I was doing so much at the time. I was involved in so much at the time. Not to, as I look back now and I can, call a thing a thing. It was that trauma. It was that pain, instead of dealing with the root cause of, how did I end up in this space? Because now that's not something that I would ever allow in my life. So what about me at that time allowed this? And even saying that to somebody, I take responsibility for the part that I played in that. You didn't do anything. And I'm like, I know I didn't make him do what he did. But I also recognized that I was in a space at that time where I accepted some things in my life that I would never accept now. So that confidence, that self-esteem, knowing your value, knowing your worth. So in a totally different space, that's where that healing comes about. Knowing
it takes time.
It takes time
for you to get through that, get to that point.
I will honestly say there are some moments where I think I'm still in the process.
Sure.
I'm still in the process.
I'm so glad you said that, because a lot of people think that, one, you don't look like what you've been through.
Right.
Right. And then a lot of people think just because you don't look like what you've been through, that you don't sometimes slip back into, feeling unsure.
Right.
Or, a little unsettled. That's natural.
That's natural.
Yeah.
And recognizing it.
Yes.
Like, even with Remarkable Women, saying this year is 20 years. June 22nd is 20 years since it happened.
Oh, wow.
And I turned 50 in April. So just how this is the year where it's like, I'm very spiritually grounded. Very, me and God, just, God, what? And I'll listen. And if he says do it, I'll do it. If it's a big risk, if he says do it, I'll do it. So as I sat and I just thought about this year, Remarkable Women turning 50, this is 20 years. Oh, this is the year you're really supposed to use your voice.
Wow.
So then I turned, I thought I was.
Yeah.
I thought I was.
Okay. Plot twist.
I thought, plot twist, pivot. So I ended up, I go to Hollywood for 2 days. The very next week I turned 50. My birthday was Easter Sunday. The energy was so high. I was on this emotional, overwhelming experience.
Yeah.
How do you keep that going?
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
How do I mentally stay in Hollywood?
Yeah.
How do I mentally stay on the dance floor, at my 50th birthday party?
Yeah.
So when you come down off of that, what now?
You feel empty.
You feel empty. So May being Mental Health Awareness Month, I was like, Tiff, you have to stop and figure out, what do you do now? Because in my mind, ordinarily, I'm going to take remarkable women and I'm going to leverage it.
Right.
And I'm going to pour into other women. But I didn't have that plan. I just had remarkable women. Like, I hadn't processed it. So, so far the month of May, I just took a step back and really processed it. Like I said, this is the first interview I've done since Remarkable Women. And I'm in a space now where I realize, okay, let's take this opportunity and let's pour into another woman. Let's really say to another woman, that thing that you've been through, once you heal from it, you have these big other opportunities. Do not shy away from them.
Yeah. So I have a question for you, because our platform is always about, not always, but it's basically about like knowing who you truly are, right? You're always evolving. So if I was to ask you today, like, who is Tiffiney Hall? Not the remarkable woman, not the mom, right? Who is she?
I'm a cheerleader of women.
Okay.
I am a cheerleader of women, and women have a hard time with that. I want to see the greatness in every woman. Sometimes people say it and then they don't show up as that. That's Tiffiney Hall. If I'm in a room with you, I want to see the best and the brightest come out in you as a woman. It doesn't intimidate me for you to shine.
Right.
I want you, I don't want you to hide behind any of that greatness. And when people feel that energy, you know what that does. I know what it is that I needed when I needed it, that I didn't get. And I want to be that for another woman and say, hey, I know you can make it through whatever it is you're going through. Right. It's going to take some mindset shifts. It's going to take some accountability. It's going to take looking in the mirror and saying, you're beautiful. Like, there's some ugly stuff about you.
Yeah.
And being honest and pulling that ugly stuff up at the roots and saying, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with saying that there was a ugly part of me, or there was some unhealed parts of me, but I need to heal in order to become my best version of myself.
What did that work look like for you?
First and foremost, oh my gosh, I'm in the process of finishing up another book. So that was one of the things.
I love it. So you're an author.
Yes. So it was a shift there, because I'm a speaking coach. So I thought, which the speaking book was done, Beyond Words, it's done. And I thought that that's what I was supposed to be doing. Had this, 6-city tour planned for the summer, which I am still doing, just shifted some things. And then that space from, like I said, coming down off of Remarkable Women and then my birthday, that's what I had to do. I had to sit and I had to hear God say, this is what I want you to do. The direction you're trying to go is not me.
Right.
I'm not telling you to do that. I'm telling you to leverage what I've given you. So I went back to a project that I started in 2024, and it's called It Was All in My Mind. And this project started out as, originally it was going to be a compilation of survivors of domestic violence, their stories. And I was like, no, it needs to go another way before that. It needs to be me saying to women, it's all in your mind. How do you get out of your head? How do you stop listening to the voices? And as I started writing that, and I really, again, was honest with myself, I went back, and it sounds so cliche, but I went back to that moment. If my biological father was not present in my life, that was the first instance of me feeling a level of unworthiness.
Oh, wow, Tiffany.
If
Yeah,
I was,
that's heavy.
if I'm not enough as a woman,
Right.
that my other parent didn't want to be in my life from birth,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm not enough.
Yeah, yeah. And there's so many women, young women like yourself that struggle with that.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up being in these bad relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's mental, physical or financial abuse, that because of the lack of a, a father figure in their life,
Mm-hmm.
or even just a father figure, we want to say a father, but a solid father figure,
Mm-hmm.
that they do struggle with this.
Right.
So yeah, which is one of the reasons why we have this platform, like to have these conversations. So how did you overcome that? That, okay, to get to the point where I'm unworthy to, I am worthy of this thing.
Sitting down. So my dad passed away when I was 8 months pregnant with my daughter. He passed away that February. I had my daughter in March. So I'm like 8, 9 months pregnant, due any day. And because we didn't have a relationship, I didn't know he passed. Again, that it didn't come to me, firsthand as it normally would have for a child who has a relationship with their parents. And someone that he was in a relationship previously that still was in contact with me called me. And they were like, they just found your dad dead in the house. I was like, what?
Mm.
So I go to work the next day and my aunt called me, my dad's sister somehow, got my information. She calls me and she's like, we're going to the funeral home to, plan the service, come. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So I go and I have a brother and my brother was there and we never really had a relationship. And they're talking about, the clothes he's going to wear, the casket, all of this. And I remember my brother said we'll put his green suit on him.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and I remember I just started crying. Because when you think about a father-daughter relationship, or you think about what it should be, I should have been the one who knew what suit my dad would have worn. That's something, I was the older one. I was the daughter. And I just remember sitting there crying, like, I didn't know this man. So then
So it was guilt.
it was guilt, but it was, again, that connection. I felt like, I didn't know him. So, we're planning his funeral service and I said I would read something. And I remember reading this and at the repast, people were coming up to me. They were like, he didn't even know he had a daughter. And I was like, what?
Wow.
Fast.
That's a lot.
They're like, but here I am processing it years later. So I came to a point I hadn't gone to his gravesite. Like when he was buried, that was it for me. So going through this process after the stabbing and that healing piece, I remember there was a day where, and I don't know, just like I can see it. I was like, we're going to my dad's gravesite, taking my daughter. And I was just like, I didn't know where he was at. Like I knew the cemetery, but I did not know where he was buried at.
Right.
And I remember like, oh my God, I don't know where he's at. I called a cousin, she told me. And I got a newspaper and I sat there in the cemetery with my daughter and I released any strongholds that had on me because I had to forgive him.
You have to forgive.
You have to.
Yes.
And I didn't want my kids feeling, from my situation that they couldn't have that sort of connection, with their dads or whatever. And I didn't want that bitterness or that angriness coming from me. And also accepting that I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that part of him, even though I didn't know it. And saying that in that moment and up until he died, he did what he thought was best.
Right.
And that was not a reflection of me. That was his choice.
So you let him, and you also took the responsibility of allowing yourself to heal.
Yes. Yes. And not being angry.
For you to move forward.
Yeah. Not being angry. No, you did what you needed to do, even though I didn't understand it as, your child, your daughter. And that had nothing to do with my worthiness. It had nothing to do with me not being enough for you. You did what you had to do, and I had to be okay with that no matter how I felt. And that's a hard pill to swallow.
It is.
That's a hard pill to swallow. And then, like you said, that father figure, I still have my uncle. My mom's oldest brother. I still have my grandfather. So I still had some amazing, solid men in my life.
Sure, role models.
Yeah, I didn't have that connection with my dad. I still had and was raised on some solid values or family values, even though it wasn't from him. I still had that connection. And really saying, Tiff, you still had it. You didn't have it from where you may have wanted it from, but you still had it.
Right.
And looking at how that healed me as far as that male-female relationship. I'm married now. I've been married to the person I'm with for 10 years. I know what healthy looks like.
Yes.
Do we agree all the time? Hell no.
But if you said yes, I'm like, Tiffany, you're lying.
No. Right.
But you also have a relationship.
Like, what?
Yeah.
That ain't marriage. But I understand, just because that conflict may be there, I would be one at one time to say, oh, I'm out of this.
Right.
I ain't got this to do.
Right. One picture.
And sure.
Right. There we go.
I would be that person that would be like, oh, I'm out of this. But my husband was who I needed, and deals with me in every capacity. I just turned 50. I'm coming to this menopausal age.
Girl, we can have a whole segment on that.
Window up, fan on, blankets up, window down. I feel so bad.
It's going to get naked.
Then let me put my
clients up the clothes back on. It's a whole hot mess.
So it's literally a whole hot flash mess. And I'm like, this poor man, I'm turning the ceiling fan on, then I'm turning the ceiling fan off. And somebody to even go through that with you?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
It must be.
They're a creeper. Oh, my gosh. Because I would be like, if you don't put that window down, I'm, sitting on the side of the bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, window up. And
just your emotions alone.
Just the emotion.
Scratch your eye out, and next you want to just love on you. That's just.
Yes. Or I'm like, I remember there was a time I was like, you know what? I can't do this. I was like, I can't. I was like, I can't do this. And then I realized every time I did that, it was around cycle time. It was at PMS at the time. And I had to learn. I was like, girl, if you don't get yourself together. And he'll be like, where are you going? I don't know. I just can't do this marriage thing anymore.
Did a blanket apology, like, babe, you know what? I want to just say sorry because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow may be reckless. The next day I may be loving. Just please understand me for who I am.
Because I don't know what's going on with me. I have no control. And being able to say that.
Yes.
And I have no clue what's happening right now.
Yeah.
So that makes a difference.
I want to take 2 seconds to share with you that this particular episode is brought to you by Rob Shaw and Allstate Insurance. If you're looking for someone to give you insurance, whether it's home insurance, car insurance, go to him. He is your guy. Thank you, Rob, for sponsoring this show. With all of the the relationships that you had, and the broken relationship that you had, and then deciding for yourself and for your daughter, right, that it was best for you to heal and let go so that she can have a better life too.
Yes.
That is to be commended. That's remarkable in itself.
You're
welcome. And then to take something that happened to you that was so traumatic and to turn it into something that's so positive, that was just to be commended. But I want us to talk about PosiTiff.
Sure.
PosiTiff is in the building.
Yes.
Yes.
Even that. So that's literally my business name. PosiTiff. That's literally how it's established.
I think it's so sweet.
That's what everybody said.
Love it.
So even when I did that, I shied away from it because I was like, this is so dumb.
Right.
And when I established my bank account and all of that, and, I have people like, oh my God, I love it.
Love.
And I was like, what? And I had to grow into that.
Yeah.
When I'm telling people it's a play on the word positive in my name, Tiffiney.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, it makes sense. And I was like, you like it? And now, the brand is the branding color is the purple. I didn't.
Girl.
Okay. I didn't.
Before we release this episode, you're going to start the process.
I didn't.
Yes.
I didn't. And that's what I'm. So with PosiTiff, and I'm not even gonna lie to you, it's something that I'm still building. And I'm finding out along the way, like, certain things. Like, I don't have this all figured out. Like, I tell people, I don't have this all figured out.
Yeah.
I had this idea, I took it, I decided to run with it, and now I'm seeing where it's like sticking.
Yeah.
People are like, I love it. So now for me, even with me, like I said, speaking coach, but I'm scaling as well. I'm really growing into this and just like really
You're figuring it out.
growing into it. Like, people are like PosiTiff. No. Or my daughter will be somewhere and they're like, aren't you PosiTiff's daughter? And she's like, not PosiTiff's daughter. She's like, but that's who, she's known for.
Becoming a brand.
Yeah, she's like, aren't you, Mom? They're like calling me PosiTiff's daughter. So yeah, so the brand is really evolving. So yeah, the trademarking and all of that, it'll be done.
That's awesome. And don't you have a foundation?
So I have a nonprofit, and that's a PosiTiff Place. So I literally have a location in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. That's home. And at a PosiTiff Place, it's about making trauma a positive experience.
So how do you make trauma experience?
Talk about it.
Okay.
And just like we said, making and creating a safe space for people to say, I went through this.
Yeah.
This is what this looked like, but I don't look like what I've been through, and being able to share that with other people.
So you listen, but don't judge.
We listen, but don't judge,
Yep.
but then also holding one another accountable. So my story comes from being a survivor of domestic violence. I have a conference room, nonprofits are welcome to come host groups there, that partnership piece. So it's not just about domestic violence. That's what I do. What I've come to realize is if you're not ready to leave, I can't make you leave. I can't make you leave. So when that person comes to me, that's the first question I ask. Are you ready to leave?
Right. Yeah. I mean, because a lot of people, they'll leave, but then they'll go back.
So I say, because I am local, born and raised in Harrisburg, I'm not in a space where if you're going to be back and forth, I'm willing to put, because I am a small business, I'm not willing to put and jeopardize my safety, my husband's safety, my children's safety.
Yeah.
Because you're not ready to go. And then next thing you know, we're going through the process of, well, let's get you stable. What do you need once you leave?
Right.
And not a safe exit plan. Because I tell people I wouldn't want somebody, and not just women, anybody, a safe exit plan. I wouldn't want to put anybody in a situation where, you're leaving and then you're looking over your shoulder every time you're out and about.
Okay. But when you do that, no matter what, depending on the circumstances,
if you're ready to leave, then you're going to cut some things off. When you're ready to, and again, that's just my opinion and that's from my experience.
Sure.
So I can't speak for anybody else's. But when you're coming to me, are you ready? Are you ready to leave? Are you ready to do the work emotionally? Are you ready to do the work financially? Because when you leave, that may solely be you dependent on you.
Right.
So all the way around, are you ready to leave? And if you're not ready to leave, then I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'm not going to make you leave anything. And that's that non-traditional piece.
Right.
So sometimes we've seen organizations where traditionally, okay, you're a victim, you got to go.
Yeah.
And they're putting this plan in place for you to go. And that looking over your shoulder, you left in the middle of the night, you're on the run and this person is looking for you. But if you're ready to leave, you're going to make some different decisions. You're going to put some different things in place. And again, that's just my opinion.
Sure, that's what I believe.
Right. And I think that comes from doing the internal work. Saying, like I had to do, I deserve better.
So let's talk to that woman or that person that's in that domestic violence situation, and they have come to the end of their rope, but they may be thinking, okay, am I truly ready to leave? Like, how do you know you're ready to leave?
When you can walk away and say, I'm never going back. when you can walk away and say, I know I deserve more.
Mm-hmm.
I deserve better. So when this happened to me, I was a CNA, so I'm a nurse. I'm an LPN, and even financially, there was a difference. Shortly, I want to say, oh, you're gonna love this. It happened in June. I lived in an apartment complex. I started searching for a house.
Oh, wow.
I started searching for my first house.
Yeah.
I closed on my first house not even a year.
On your own.
On my own.
That's awesome.
I knew you appreciate that.
Yeah.
I closed on my first house.
That's awesome.
So I moved from this apartment complex to my first home, and it was just me and my kids. And just feeling like that stability was needed.
Right.
And that sense of ownership and that pride because, I worked to do this. Still as a CNA.
Yeah.
But then got in a situation in the house where when I went back to work, I had a resident that grabbed my arm and re-injured one of my wounds. So I ended up off and things just like spiraled out of control financially. And I was able to, I don't know if they still do this, but I was able to sell the house back to after 4 years, it's called cash for keys.
Yeah.
So instead of foreclosure and all of that, I was able to sell the house back.
Foreclosure.
Yes. So I was able to sell the house back. But that time that we were in the house, how I grew, how my kids grew, how being rooted in something that was ours from what we had came from.
Right.
It was totally different.
Yeah, giving you that piece of independence, it does give you the confidence that you need. Because one of the triggers or one of the red flags is financially, you get suffocated too when you're in abusive relationships. They control the finances as well as emotional and physical. So it's just, so to see you overcome that and say, yep, nope, I'm about to do this. And even with the setback, you still had the confidence to go out there and find the house, to start all over, to have a better life for you and your children.
Right.
And to see how far you've come. So that's awesome. Big thank you to Sugaring NYC Harrisburg for sponsoring this episode. It's because of them we're able to bring this great content to you. Are you searching for a fabulous place that does lashes and eyebrows that slay, or hair removal that just makes you feel so great? You want to check them out. Now back to our show.
And even, with that leaving piece or with the stand piece, not necessarily my story, but being able to stand in the gap for another victim.
Yes.
Who decided to stay because her husband, abuser, says, she's been the homemaker for however long they've been together. She's been taking care of kids. He's been the sole financial provider. And each and every day, he comes home, something's triggering him, and he's beating her.
Right.
So she decides, I've had enough. But what she knows is, he said, if you ever try to leave me, I will kill you and these kids.
Fear. Yep.
How many times have we seen it play out in reality?
Right.
A husband kills a wife and their children. So when you hear that, instinctively, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're going to stay.
You're going to be afraid.
You're going to stay.
Yeah, stay out of fear.
You're going to stay. So having the courage and the wherewithal to have those conversations, and make advocates on a bigger level aware of that, and giving a voice to that woman who may have felt like, people are saying I stay because I want it or I'm weak. No, actually, I take strength to stay.
Wow.
Because you're protecting your kids.
Yeah. So your foundation allows them to have a safe space to come.
Yes.
And to talk through.
Yes.
To get the courage. And this is after they left.
After they left.
Yes. After they left, and they're not going back.
They're not going back.
Yes.
Yes. Saying, I didn't stay because I was weak. I stayed because he was a good provider despite what was going on, because two things can be true at the same time.
They can be.
And until we are in a space where we can have those courageous conversations, He might have been a pissy husband,
Right.
but he was a good provider. I never had to worry about anything for my kids. If I would have left and had to do it on my own, my kids wouldn't have had, the things that they've had.
Right.
Whether that's good, bad, or indifferent, what do we say?
Mm.
That's not for us to judge.
Right.
It's not my place for me to judge why you stayed.
Yeah.
That's not my place to judge any decision that you've made in your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You knew what was best for you at the time, and it's not for me to question. It's not for anybody, else to question. And again, processing that trauma and getting out of it and saying you may have stayed because, you personally thought you didn't have the strength to leave.
Right.
But saying to you as a woman, do you know how strong you were for staying?
Right. Yeah. I think what comes to mind for me is a lot of people think that the woman that's staying isn't a career woman. There are women that have high positions that are in the same state of affairs, right? They're going home. They're presenting themselves as if they have it all together, and they go home and they're actually broken, and they're also being broken by the hands of their perpetrator. So what do you say to that woman? Because I think a lot of it has to do with there's a little pride, as in, I can't let people know what I'm going through for the fear of being judged, right? Or not accepted, or because they have to put on this air or this fake identity that they're going through. So what would you say to that woman? Because they're out there.
I have a very, very good friend of mine, and hers was more emotional than it was anything else physical. And she held a very C-suite position. Like, she was very up there, in what she did in education and post-secondary education. And she had an incident where she was just like, I had to go in here every day and still do my job. Okay, well, where do you make space to process mentally what you're going through?
Right. And why don't you leave?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm letting
that's
them
what
think, like, I don't know what else to say. So why don't you leave?
Right. And that's
What you stand for.
So here she was, like, years after the fact, and she and I were talking and just saying to her, you did what you thought was best for you at the moment. And how do we incorporate make those safe spaces? Because as women, we're expected to go to work. Nothing's wrong, still handle. Nobody ever asks, are you okay?
That's fair. That is.
Are you
Especially
okay?
if you're an executive.
If you're an executive, you got it all together.
Yeah.
But knowing that you need those safe spaces too. And I found that in, like, different conferences and retreats that I've been to, they're the women that you'll hear talk the most.
Right.
Because they're safe.
Right.
And then you find out, like, they're second in command, and you're like,
right.
But they didn't have that safe space, and it was so freeing for them. And when we as women understand and allow, without judgment, no matter where you are, that you can say what you need to say. You can say, I'm hurting.
Right.
I didn't have this all figured out. And we're not going to say, oh, well, you're the CEO of whatever. Okay, from the CEO to the custodian. Like you said, there's no difference.
No difference.
We can't think because you appear on the outside to dress it up that you're any better than the person who, isn't dressing it up, or we see. So just making that space. I believe that's the thing that moving forward we need to see more of. Making space for somebody to say, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. Okay, well, at this moment, we'll give you your space to not be okay.
Right.
It's okay to not be okay. You don't have to be, have your cape on all the time, be strong all the time. And having women who understand, like, I've been there and it's okay.
Right.
It's okay.
It is okay. Yes. Just in case you don't know, these episodes are brought to you and funded majority from my real estate team, the Erica Ross team. So thank you for continuing to support this channel. And if you're looking to sponsor in any way, one of the best gifts you can give us is a referral. So if you know anyone that's looking to buy or to sell, reach out to us. We are here to help. So It is my prayer that anyone that feels as though they are in an unsafe place, whether it's physical, emotional, financial, or otherwise, that they have the courage to leave and to leave for good, that they are worthy enough to live the life that God has designed for them. That is my prayer every day. So it's because of that we actually we have a foundation that's rolling out, the Phoenix Foundation, and that's to help people that have finally found a safe space and want to build up, their financial independence. We give them grants for suitable housing, whether it's rent or for purchase of a home. And so when we heard your story and Remarkable Women and why you were named Remarkable in your story, it was just like, wow, we had to sit down and have a conversation with you. So, of course, then we'll be talking to you offline,
Right,
to see how we can actually align our spaces or our missions to see how we can make it a better place, at least for Central PA to start. Who knows where God's going to take it. So,
and ironically, here we are again, because what did I just say? I just remembered talking to you.
yeah,
I purchased my first home not
Yeah.
even 6 months after it happened. So being able to say, Erica, how do I become that face
yes,
for your foundation?
Yeah.
How can I support? Because I know what it was like. And I literally, I passed by the house that I bought a million times because I lived on,
Didn't you get emotional?
because it had 13 steps up in the front.
Oh, wow.
I was like, I don't want that house. I was like, I don't want that. Who is going up all these steps? And I kept passing it by. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
The first time my realtor, he's like, just look at it. I was like, I don't want that house. And I walked in that house and it was move-in ready.
See?
And he told me this house was empty for almost 2 years. He said, this is your house.
Wow.
I was just like, oh. And that's the house I ended up in.
Yeah.
And I just parked out back and I went up the basement steps. It wasn't 13 steps, but I just, yeah. And where I lived at, we had a space in between my house and my neighbor's house. That was a mom and her daughter. Then it was another mom and her daughter. Then there was a guy who, he lived by himself. And then there was another mom and her son.
Wow.
And we created community.
Wow.
During the holidays, we would bring our cookout stuff out and we would do something together. It was like the women of Hell Avenue, the women of Hell Avenue, the women of Brewster's Place for Hell Avenue. Yeah. So we just, we became our community. So, and ironically, I was the matron of honor for the young woman who lived next door to me when she got married. So that's important. That's where I grew, in that house. So anything I can do for you, your foundation, I look forward to it.
Thank you so much. This was so great. Y'all, if you agree, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to comment because we want to have conversations with you. We're going to make sure we tag Tiffiney Hall here so that you can actually have conversations with her individually. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, likewise. And we look forward to seeing you in the comments.